what do you think he wouldn't do? If it's not to invoke the Insurrection Act, which he would love to do, it's to make an excuse for the fact that his economic policies are frankly catastrophic, to make excuse for the fact that the whole world is making a workaround on the United States, to make excuses for the fact that soybean farmers in North Dakota are having to burn their crops because of his idiotic policies. So you're exactly right. And I'll give you one further piece of advice. I wouldn't put anything past this guy. Yeah, I said the word anything. You got it. Underline it.
James, to one of our favorite segments, our listener questions. Boy, do we have some smart, insightful listeners. Carrie in San Diego, California. This is picking up on one of the things we discussed. She said, given Trump's dismal approval on almost every issue, is it possible he could try to use the government shutdown as an excuse to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Of course it is. What is, my dear friend San Diego, what do you think he wouldn't do? If it's not to invoke the Insurrection Act, which he would love to do, it's to make an excuse for the fact that his economic policies are frankly catastrophic, to make excuse for the fact that the whole world is making a workaround on the United States, to make excuses for the fact that soybean farmers in North Dakota are having to burn their crops because of his idiotic policies. So you're exactly right. And I'll give you one further piece of advice. I wouldn't put anything past this guy. Yeah, I said the word anything. You got it. Underline it.
Right. Good point. The next is from Sam Tolles in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Sam is the nephew of the former Washington Post cartoonist Tom Tolles, who kindly sent his best to Judy and me. Tom, I have to tell you, the Washington Post still does some good journalism, but you are really missed, and that editorial page has been decimated. What used to be one of the most interesting editorial pages in the country, is barely worth reading these days. And Tom Tolles, you and Herb Block were legends here, and we miss you. Anyway, your nephew Sam, be sure and say hi to Tom, says Democrats are terrible at social media. He thinks that Mondami and AOC are winning based less on their popular policy than they understand the new media ecosystem, while national Democrats are still stuck in the press release package meeting era. I think, Sam, you have a point. I'm not going to pretend that I really understand the new media ecosystem because I don't. But I think there are some Republicans who have gotten that more quickly than some older Democrats have. And I think your examples, AOC is a genius at that. And I'm encouraged, for instance, that Andy Bashir, consultant, is a former communications chief for AOC, a wonderful woman named Lauren Hitt. So maybe Democrats are starting to learn, James, but I think Sam's point is absolutely right.
So all of these things that come up, think how much communications changes: the printing press, the radio, television, the internet, the anything, social media. And it's two things. How do you communicate it, and what do you communicate?
Mm-hmm.
And, you go back to, what's that, Marshall McLuhan or something, the medium is the message. Sometimes what you communicate on says a lot about what you're communicating. And it's never been my hand, but I'm convinced by this listener's question. I'm convinced by what Della Volpe said in the Times. I'm convinced by what I'm seeing is I don't think we're doing a good job of meeting these people, and particularly these younger people, where they are.
Yeah.
And now, one thing I will say is all of these things do better with extreme ideologues. No one wants to go in website and see what Senator Sheldon Whitehouse said or Michael Bennett. All right, they're never going to get the truth. But maybe the best senators we've had in this century. But no matter what they do or try to do, they're not going to get the same kind of shit that a Rand Paul's going to get or Marjorie Taylor Greene. You understand you're going into this with sanity is a limitation.
Matthew in Boston, Massachusetts, still maybe my favorite city, one of my three favorites, says that you have mentioned, James, He said casually breezed past the idea that Mississippi could be a competitive Senate race in 2026. He wants to know what's going on there, and please elaborate.
Thank you. Okay, so the black population of Mississippi is a little bit north of 38 and a half.
Is
We
that
have
population or voting population?
black share. So for
Of the,
every
of the
100
vote.
Mississippians, about 38.5 are black, which is the highest of any state in the country. There is a core of about 21%. I'd have to revise it and talk to a couple of people, but it's pretty close, of whites that vote Democratic. So the way you did this on your cell phone, if we can get 21% of, so let's say it comes in and the black share is 31. Okay, well, 92% of 31 and then 21 of 69 will get you one result. However, 92 of 35 and 21 of 65 is going to produce an entirely different number. What the Democrats have done in Mississippi is we would say, let's now, and this is true throughout the South, let's nominate the most moderate white we can, and we'll get, maybe we can get out 21 to 22, but what inevitably happens is we get stuck at a 31 and a half or 32 share when it should be higher. Our candidate is a gentleman by the name of Scott Collin. He's a black DA prosecutor who gets elected in a majority white county. He's got appeal, and if he can get that black share up to 34 plus, I think he's in range. But it's kind of your cell phone math. You can do it and figure out where we got to be. And I think we have a better chance of getting there than most people. If you remember, Albert, you remember very well, Brandon lost about 2 points, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, Mississippi is just much better opportunity than Louisiana or Alabama for that, or Arkansas, which is none. I think Mississippi
or Tennessee.
God, yes.
Yeah.
So we tend to just lump. That's the problem with, I call it the doctrine of lumping. You just lump everything together. That's why, of course, I get on this tangent all the time. I hate the phrase people of color, communities of color, because it just lumps everybody that's not white. It's just some arrogant shit saying they all the same. It's just lumping. I don't like lumping.
James, Mark in New Hampshire, those people in New Hampshire are always thinking about presidential politics. That's the cottage industry there. Mark says, can you comment on a possible Bashir Moore presidential ticket? I vowed that I wasn't going to talk about 2028 until we finish 2026. There's a season for everything. And the season now is the midterms, the most important midterms, I believe, in my lifetime. And so I don't really know, but I will tell you, I'll break my vow. That would be a very attractive ticket either way. Andy Bashir and Wes Moore, and it just underscores that talent that is out there. And, let's get through the midterms. Let's win the House, maybe the Senate, and then let's showcase some of this great talent.
Absolutely, and you and I are on this. They'll play. That is a great combination. Would I be enthusiastic about that? But you could come up with 10, maybe 12, 14 other combinations that would be impressive too. When you got a big field that's very talented, you can see a lot of things falling your way.
Right.
And usually when the president, whoever wins the nomination for president, that always happened. Very often they pick somebody who's, had run for president before Biden Obama picking Biden, President Clinton picking Al Gore. It really helps to have somebody that's been on the turf of a national campaign before. So we're going to have, we're going to get a lot of experience in the Democratic primaries. And I'm so with you. Even for as a lifelong Democrat, this is going to be hard for us to screw up. Although we could.
Managed to do it in 2024, that's for sure.
We sure did.
By the way, I would quickly say, of all the things I am not interested in, it is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris relitigating the 2024 election. We know Joe Biden never should have run again. He I think, really, really hurt badly his legacy. It was stupid. It was selfish. And Kamala Harris was a mediocre candidate. Period. End of story. Let's move on.
Yeah, but the story has to be taken a little bit further because this program, I'll say, was consistent early and often that Biden should not run for election.
Right.
Not very few people, rode that horse with us. And so after it happens and it's now apparent to everybody, then Harris says, well, it kind of wasn't my place to say something, but I don't think he should have run. Now the guy that's done himself in with me, I don't want to hear from him anymore, is Pete Buttigieg. Because now Pete Buttigieg is saying, well, I don't think he should have run. Well, goddamn, man, say something when it can help. What good does it do to say it after the whole thing? Oh, I wasn't in a position to say that. Yeah, you were. You were in a better position than two podcast junkies sitting there talking about how bad this is.
Well, you're
this
right
is cowardness.
You're right on Buttigieg. Absolutely. On this issue alone, I give Harris a little bit of a pass. Pretty hard when you're the sitting vice president and the beneficiary to publicly call on him not to run. But Buttigieg does not have that excuse.
If the country, and we know this, and she knows it, the entire American experiment, the whole thing was at stake. Okay, you could have build coalitions in the White House. You could have talked to people and say, look, you need to talk to Joe. I'm in a bit of a difficult position here, but this is not where it is. I don't give anybody a pass because the price of silence is so manifestly horrible.
Well,
in any normal time, I'd say you got an excuse. I'm not that generous.
The price of silence was Donald Trump.
I'm not that generous. I understand
the price of silence was Donald Trump.
Right.
And
that's what it is.
That's what they ought to understand.
It might have been uncomfortable and a lot of things, but there's nothing more uncomfortable than this shit.
John in Arizona. John, next time tell us where in Arizona. It's a big, really interesting state. John says, can the Supreme Court be counted on to preserve democracy? So far, they seem to be allowing Trump to win every case. John, I fear the simple answer is no. I'm not as hard on John Roberts. I'm not quite as hard on John Roberts as James is. But I think two things. Number one, and I think both suggest he's really kind of a coward. He does not want to be in a 5-4 minority in decisions. And even more, if he can get a 5-4 majority, I think he's afraid that Trump will disobey whatever court edict is handed down. And he doesn't have the slightest idea what he would do then. And so, therefore, I think the Supreme Court, with its natural Republican proclivities, can't be counted on to stand up to Trump to preserve democracy.
Well, I'm not John Rod, that he's any better than the rest of them. I don't see any evidence of it, particularly since, 2016 election. I think he's. I think these guys don't do. I think they look at what is going to allow the Republicans to win most elections. What's going to allow the people that we like to make the most money. And I don't think John Roberts gives one wit's ass about democracy, anything like that. All he cares about is Republicans winning an election and all his friends making money. That's my view.
Yeah. Our last question, I'm going to violate our rules here because it comes from Jono, Jono. Jono, I have no idea where you're from, what state, what town. This is the last time I'm going to ask a Jono question without you telling us where you're from, because that's really, I think, we find that really important and interesting. But Jono asks, if Tim Miller and the Bulwark can get behind Mondami, why can't you, James?
I don't know that I'm against him. I'd vote for him.
Yeah.
I don't give. I mean, fine, and a lot of other people are. But do I think that his brand of things that he said are consistent with a national democratic message that I would prefer? No, but I'm in a coalition, so I don't get everything I want. But I think the guy's honest. I think he's articulate. I think he sees that the real problem people have is struggling to make ends meet. So, yeah, I give him credit, and I would vote for him. I don't know anybody really cares what I do because I don't live in New York. But to answer your question, yeah.
Yeah, I said in the primary that I reluctantly would prefer Cuomo because I was afraid the Republicans would make a big issue out of Mondami. I've changed my mind totally. I think I was wrong. I think Cuomo is a spent force. He's kind of making more of a fool of himself. And I frankly think at this stage, Mondami would be a better mayor. Among other things, a lot of the things he proposes to do aren't realistic. And if he can lift the spirits of New Yorkers, some who need their spirits lifted, that would be a good thing. So,
And let's remember, there are twice as many, more than that, more people in New Jersey and Virginia than there are in New York City. Get
oh
it
yeah,
out
far more, far
far,
more. Yeah, yeah.
far more.
All right, listen, keep those questions coming. They are great questions. If we didn't get to them this week, we'll try to get to it next week, but tell us where you're from. Channeling you, Jono. So thank you very much, and we love this segment.